Hey, gang. Oh, that's loud. Hold on. I always got to turn down my own headphones. It's way too much. First day officially using Discord. Our Discord server has been up. We have not been using it for whatever reason. Trying it out today. You can go to the name of the server is Yergz Group. And the channel that we're using is, of course, named Up the Middle. So see how that works? See what happens with it? I've sent a bunch of invites to friends that are on Discord. And with the downsizing that we've done, which really also starts this past weekend. Oh, there's Jane. I don't have 15 destinations on Restream anymore because I don't need 15 destinations. We weren't getting people on those different. So I cut our expense in half. One of the custom destinations is the Yergz radio video player, which you can also get at mastiff.media or soon, if not already. I don't think we need a transcript on that screen there. And you can watch us on our own player. You don't need Facebook. You don't need whatever else. I've been fighting Facebook with royalty claims from things that don't have royalty. They're royalty-free music. The song you just heard. I went back to episodes as far back as January with Yergz Tonight when my co-host was Dina. So Facebook might be on the chopping block next. Speaking of chopping block, we are on the chopping block, and women have the hatchet, the butcher knife. They are going on strike. And with me to talk about that is my usual Monday co-host. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, too. It's going to be an interesting week for families around the Thanksgiving table.
Oh, yeah.
Those
Yeah.
who choose to join the Thanksgiving table. I've been reading a number of
Yeah.
articles. I've been reading a number of articles about why women are maybe avoiding meeting with families this particular season. And I came across, I sent to you a really cool comic, where mom's in the kitchen stirring something on the stove and the little girl says, "Hey, mom, why don't we go to church?" And
Yeah.
mom says, "Well, because the pastor voted for a rapist, dear." And I
Yeah.
thought, oh my
Yeah.
God, doesn't that just say it? Not just a rapist, but, somebody who feels like they own my body. Like,
I
you
was,
know,
I was
and I
going to
saw
bring
another meme.
the,
I saw another meme that would be important to you this morning. I didn't save it, and I should have because I can't ever remember anything word for word anymore. But it was just let gay guys run around, and grab straight men and say, "Your body, my choice." Okay? The way they have been doing to women, disallowing them to make their own decisions related to their reproductive health care. Just let gay guys go grab at other men with the same phrase, "Your body, my
yeah,
choice," and see how long that really lasts.
the
But
stupidity behind that whole end of the political spectrum. I was just watching a comedian, and I saw this clip before, actually, but I was just watching a comedian before we came on the air, a guy named Steve Hofstetter, tall, ginger guy with glasses. We would all probably call him liberal, although he identifies politically as a progressive and not a
okay,
liberal.
okay.
That he supported Elizabeth Warren for president back in
President.
2020.
Okay.
So he's at a show in, I think it was Syracuse, New York. He's kind of known for getting hecklers because of his political beliefs.
Okay.
And of course, they're MAGA folks.
Of course.
And this lady just asks some sort of question about when was the last, because he seems to be very judgy against conservatives, when in
Okay.
all actuality, he's judgy against MAGA, which,
Okay.
as do I, he differentiates between conservatives and uber right wing.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, when was the last time you just sat down and had fellowship with a fellow, a conservative friend? And of course, she has to say fellowship, like we're in church or something. You
Right.
can't say, when was the last time you sat down and had a conversation with somebody who's a Trump supporter?
Right.
They've got to sugarcoat it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Fellowship.
yeah. Yeah, I figured you would like that one. The flowery,
Mm-hmm.
being the English teacher. And you probably can say, really, just when was the last time you had a chat?
Yeah. When did you have lunch?
And she's trying to defend her pride in voting for Trump when she has a gay child and her
Mm.
best friend is gay. And she claims to have voted for independents and Democrats in the past. And he calls her out for voting for somebody who just spews hate and brings about hatred and divisiveness. And she right away jumps in and says, but you support somebody who was cheating on his wife when she was killed in an accident in Paris or something, whatever the storyline was. First of all, Joe Biden was not cheating on his wife. He did not meet Jill until well after his first wife
Mhm.
passed away in a car accident with their daughter. And the whole crowd, just at the accusation of one time cheating in this guy's life, just starts moaning and like is in awe of the stupidity and the hypocrisy of this woman. And he doesn't even seem to realize she's talking about Joe Biden because he questions it
I
initially.
know. Who are you talking about? I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, well, Jill, Dr. Biden, is not his first wife.
Right.
He was married before. His
Right.
adult children, his older children, are from a woman that his first wife, who he met while on spring break, I think in law school.
Yeah. I'm aware. Mhm.
And in fact, she is the reason why he did not play football, was so that he could spend time with her. And he says, your question, your issue is with Joe Biden, who you say cheated on his wife more than 50 years ago. And you support,
Yeah.
and he just makes the hand gesture like this guy.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody else starts cracking up laughing. And it's just one example after another that the hypocrisy
Mhm.
and he shows it. He says Joe Biden in 2020, when there were that many candidates, was not my 17th choice. And as I told you before, he supported Elizabeth Warren. He said, but I'll strip naked and crawl through broken glass to vote against Donald Trump with anybody. And so all morning I've been seeing videos about like what you're talking about, like kind of boycotting and also buyer's remorse.
Have you seen buyer's remorse? You've
Yeah.
seen?
So I have not seen, and this is why I question them because they're from the left progressive media outlets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that doesn't count. Sorry.
And they play like people making TikTok videos who are telling the story that I'm about to tell that also I don't think have any weight, because if I sit here and tell you that I heard this guy, that guy, or whoever claim buyer's remorse in voting for Trump, you have no idea if I'm bullshitting you or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen this before, not that they regret voting for Trump, but people who don't know, and we've talked about this, people who don't know that there is no difference between Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act.
Mm-hmm.
They're all for the Affordable Care Act,
Mm-hmm.
but they're against Obamacare.
Oh, God.
And they claim to not be racist.
Oh, God. I can't stand it.
And these are people with like special needs children
Mm-hmm.
who are going to lose health care.
Mm-hmm.
These are veterans that are going to lose health care because Vivek Ramaswamy wants to gut the VA administration.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think Thanksgiving dinner should be served with turkey sandwiches at Boston Market.
Now,
Like,
you've been in a Thanksgiving dinner with MAGAs.
Yeah.
Yes? How'd that go for you? Did you just ignore the whole election thing?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for us who are planning to be at the Thanksgiving table with MAGA people?
Unfortunately, what we shouldn't be doing is the only thing that seems to still be working right now. When I got the moment I got off the plane in previous visits, not so much this one because it's already in place, but previous visits, I barely got in the car and I was told that there will be no political discussions.
Good.
That's by mom and dad.
Yeah, sure. I love your mom. Love your dad.
Yeah, me too. But then that's got to go both ways.
Mm.
I get my brothers who are Trump supporters bringing up this, that, or the other thing about Trump. And when I prove them wrong, through Fox News, no less, the one year, last year sometime, my brother Randy was trying to undercut Dr. Fauci. But I think that he invented the coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
or one of the conspiracy theories that was just so outrageous, only a Trump supporter would believe it. And so I Googled it. The one news story that I could find on the issue debunked the rumor. And it was from Fox News. And of course, Randy didn't want to hear it. That's when I got the wave and he walked away.
No kidding. Is that the response? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going? Did you duplicate that response this time?
Well, at least in that moment, he actually heard me.
Mm-hmm.
And with this comedian, Steve Hofstetter, the whataboutisms, and like when he answered her question by saying, but you support Donald Trump, who's cheated and cheated and cheated and cheated, she told him not to change the subject. Like, but I'm just responding to
your objection,
your answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, it's, and he also takes the same view that I do. Trump supporters are the rhinos.
Aha.
To me, they're the ones that are Republican in name only.
Yep.
Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Adam Kinzinger, Dick Cheney. I think it was here or maybe with the guys on Friday. Whoever thought we would be looking at Dick Cheney and saying he's the good guy
Mm-hmm.
after Halliburton and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
So, and mom just, and everybody else, dad is, it's usually mom and dad oftentimes with different things. And especially with like getting whatever braces or whatever inside the turkey. There's these plastic things that keep the turkey from collapsing on itself, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And dad's got to yank that out with a hacksaw or whatever because they're real good. I don't know. Mom can't seem to get it. And it's just everything seemed to go well.
Good.
Until the ones that we were not supposed to bring up the subject brought up the subject. And mom and dad try to figure out what their reasoning is. Ryan, the youngest one, told me that it's about the Second Amendment.
Mm.
Kamala Harris is a gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Walz is a hunter. Just because there should be sensible, you can't go driving a car if you're drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you don't have the means by which to drive a car, like if you're paralyzed from the neck down. If you're a criminal, if you're mentally ill, if you've got bad intentions, you shouldn't be able to get a gun. I'm not saying that nobody should be able to get a gun. I'm just saying there needs to be a certain level of common sense.
Well, I think there are all sorts of rationales. There are all sorts of reasonings. There are all sorts of arguments that, people twist themselves in pretzels in order to defend voting for Donald Trump. And what it is to me, it's all about racism and it's all about sexism.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about
Just hate
this
in general
last week. I mean, and I was having a discussion with a good friend over the weekend about this, like why, and he was offering some rationale, not for himself, but that he has heard from other people. And I said, it's just a game. White women are terrible to each other. They often, that's been my experience my entire life, that they don't necessarily support one another. Okay. They do not.
Right.
Hispanic men, it's part of the Hispanic culture not to put women in charge. It's an insult to their masculinity. And that I got from listening to a pundit who is Hispanic talking about Latino. It's about white men who hang on to the whole definition, the whole machismo definition of what manhood is all about. And that does not include having women in charge. I mean, my own husband, he's really progressive, in all of this. And he was talking at length about his own history over the years about allowing women into the Optimist Club, for example. Years ago, as he was a member of the Optimist Club, it was only for men. And then it came about that there was to be a vote to also include women as volunteers in the club. And he met up with so much resistance from his bros at the time, and he said, what? And he demonstrated in that instance a real progressive attitude. You want volunteers. Women are great volunteers. You need the energy. You need the bodies. You need help. you know, but there's still a segment of the Optimist Club at that time that was people were not interested in inviting women into the conversation. And I recognize that the conversation, locker room talk, all that kind of stuff, you know, is a reality. And yet, in my own relationship with him, I really feel, that when I have a suggestion about one thing or another, I have to term it so carefully so that it becomes ultimately his idea. Okay. And the most
That's
recent example,
my big fat Greek wedding.
what?
My big fat Greek wedding.
Yeah, something like that. I mean,
Tula,
I'm
the
not very
concept
I'm
of
not very good at this communication and haven't been throughout my entire marriage, but I'm learning. For example, we have this truck. Paul needed to buy a new truck because the old one was showing signs of age and maybe wouldn't be able to pass inspection, that kind of thing. And I thought we need to keep this truck as long as we can because every now and then the son, his vehicle is on the fritz and he needs wheels. And Paul, because there's Ginger who sheds all over the place, it's not really fair to loan the son Paul's truck because it gets all full of dog hair. So I'm thinking to myself, we need to keep the truck for when the son needs the truck. But I had to express that months ago just to put the idea, just to put the seed. And so finally comes the time, to make the decision about inspecting the truck. He said, I think we should keep the truck,
What do you
I
think
thought,
the deciding factor
I
was?
did it. I did it.
And that was the movie reference. My big fat Greek wedding.
Okay. Yeah.
The movie, the main character Tula uh, decides she wants to go to college.
Mhm.
None of the family, not the three kids that are all named Joey,
Yeah.
nobody in the family
Mhm.
uh, went to college.
Mhm.
They all graduated from high school and they worked in the restaurant.
Mhm.
And she wants to go to college. And so her mom and either his sister or the mom's sister, but two of the elder women scheme to make the dad think like it's his idea
Mhm.
that she goes to college.
Mhm.
And he falls for it the whole way.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that happens.
Tula is elated. She's going to college now and
Yeah.
learn business and come back and manage the restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, she has no intention of managing the restaurant.
Right, right,
She
right,
wants to
right.
do other things, but
Yeah,
she'll go learn business for now and
yeah.
until they figure out another way to for dad to come up with the idea that she changes her major.
I can really appreciate that. I mean, even a simple suggestion about what we're having for dinner, you know, if I'll say, I think we should have such and so. My husband does a lot of cooking. He's a wonderful guy, by the way, but he does a lot of cooking. But even if I have a suggestion, it has to be expressed that whatever if you're in the mood cooking this, that, and the other thing, just the concept of plan. It's not something I am demanding or expecting. Just if you're in the mood.
What don't the two of you usually do the small plate thing?
We have, yes, and do continue that for the most part. But
Yeah,
every
but
now and we like to have a real meal. And
that's not going to happen on Thursday either. That Thursday.
no. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so what we like to do is make something that lasts for 4 or 5 days, so nobody has to have a plan.
Nice. What are your plans for Thursday?
For Thursday.
Thanksgiving.
For
Yeah.
Thursday, my sister-in-law cooks the turkey, so we're going down to my sister-in-law's place. But I think I talked about this last time. I can't remember. I have what's known as CRS. Do you know what that means?
Can't remember stuff.
You got it. Yeah, but Thanksgiving was always our favorite holiday because I didn't really get out of my pajamas for like 5 days. In fact, I'd stop at the video store, and on the way home from school, stopping at the video store where many of my students worked, they would hold back the new releases for me that they knew I'd want to watch. And I would stop in the night before Thanksgiving and come home with an armload of videos that would last me through Thanksgiving till the video store opened again, when I could go and buy even more, or not buy, but rent even more
Right.
videos. And I spent most of Thanksgiving holiday, which in Pennsylvania, you may remember, included the Monday after Thanksgiving, which was the first day of hunting season. By the time I went back to school on Tuesday, my brain was mush after watching videos for 5 or 6 days, something like that. Anyway, so yeah, my sister-in-law does Thanksgiving. We do Christmas. So this is a holiday that we just sit back and relax, that kind of thing.
So we got another comment.
Yes.
My buddy Lars
Yes.
is from Europe, and he's a fellow day trader and crypto investor.
Okay.
On Discord, he also says, I personally believe let people be people, just listen to their side of the story, and on the inside, you can still think your way. Oh, I wish it was
Of
that easy.
course.
Yeah.
Yes. Of
I wish
course.
it was that easy.
It's not about the thinking part. It's about how it translates into my daily life part, you know.
Well, yeah, exactly. And like you were saying last week, and have been saying, Paul's comment, and of course we got to credit Paul. We can't take the credit for this.
Exactly. We must credit Paul.
You got to let the children touch the stove.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we have to do for the next couple of years. And whether or not, what we know to be this republic of ours, this democratic way of life survives, I don't know. I don't know.
I just think, like I said last week, I think we're going to be touching the stove with them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. There's no question. Yeah. The policies that are planned will affect all of us, for better or worse. Yep.
They vote to bring down the gas or the price of gas.
And the price of eggs. Don't forget eggs.
Yet having no capable realization that it was never coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Gas was down right before Election Day.
Mm-hmm. And now it's the holidays, so it's back up again. Yep.
Yeah, and it's been up ever since.
Yep. And it will continue to be. So there's that realization that we must face. But anyway, so it'll be interesting. I can't wait to, come back and chat with you next Monday.
Yeah.
After the traditional Thanksgiving holiday, to see how we survive that, or how we manipulate it. I'm pretty sure I know. There'll be no discussion whatsoever, because there rarely is. I will tell Paul he's not allowed to talk politics at the table, even though he's dying. Number of years ago, let me just tell this story because it's funny, and I think we have to maintain our sense of humor. But before the last election, Paul said he was going to run for president. And his platform was that people who continue to drive in the left lane, even if, and not, not passing someone, but continuing to drive in the left lane, it was to be capital punishment. That was the number one thing on his platform at that particular time. And I wrote.
It actually become illegal, didn't it?
I wrote. Yes, it is. I wrote the coolest press release from his campaign manager to include in one of our books of poetry and literature, announcing his candidacy for president and mentioning this as the number one thing on his platform. I have to tell you, it was a hoot. And I can remember my daughter or son or somebody suggesting I read this press release at the Thanksgiving table, and it was funny, and we had a good laugh about it.
Speaking of which, I am writing I'm about, it's not that big because it's not going to last long before I screw it up. I'm writing what I'm thankful for.
Oh, wonderful. Leslie will be so pleased.
And it's comedic
Good.
Relief. What else is a source of comedic info? And that, of course, is Trump supporters.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say Trump supporters.
No.
I can't mention the right.
No.
I can't make any of those references.
No.
Because you know it's political.
Right.
And
you'll figure it out.
And because, the expression is a non-political platform.
Yes.
So I'm trying to leave all that out and make it pretty clear who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Which will probably, in the long run, hopefully, be comical. That's kind of more the point than anything.
Exactly.
Maybe, poke a few jabs. It is the holidays after all.
After all, yes. Now, Lars has a suggestion for us, which I really like. Get some chickens and you get free eggs. A smiley face, thing in solution. I think he means to say, think in solutions, not in problems.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a bright guy. He's been on Doggy Traders. And he might have been on Up the Middle too. Actually, probably Yergz Tonight before it was Up the Middle. Mm-hmm. Or he was on Up the Middle when it was just a podcast. But he's definitely been on Doggy Traders. He's a fellow day trader and crypto investor. And he made some good calls.
Awesome. I'm interested in his solution for those women who are in states where there is an extreme abortion ban. And they experience problems in their pregnancy, facing sepsis or facing whatever. What would his solution be for that? I guess
J.D.
moving into a state that is freer, I guess.
No,
maybe?
Not an option, because J.D. Vance has expressed his interest in leaving a state to go to another state for purposes of obtaining whatever type of care that could lead to an abortion. He wants to make that illegal.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, that's how far right this guy is. I mean, if you even want to call that, I mean, I don't know that such a concept even really fits on the political spectrum.
I know. It's hard to imagine.
Where do you put that?
Hard to imagine.
Well, do you have a monthly meeting you got to head off to?
I do in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have another 10 minutes to chat with you, and then maybe you and Lars can go back and forth with some of these ideas.
David Beckemeyer is joining in the second hour today.
Yes, and I won't be able to listen because I will be in another meeting, but I will be eager to hear what his thoughts are.
Yeah, catch up tonight. Well, we're doing a role reversal. He is actually interviewing me.
Oh, how cool is that?
So I sent him some of the ground ball questions and even some more provocative ones. But
well, tell me, do you have the questions in front of you?
Not all of them.
Okay.
I told him, like questions that I suggested would be some of the standard, like, what got me into podcasting and being in the radio.
Oh, okay. That kind of thing.
Podcasting.
Okay.
What are some drawbacks or the kind of landmines,
okay.
hazards? What are some of the challenges? But I don't know what else he's got.
Okay.
And I didn't want to. I wanted it to be. It was.
Oh, you want it to be spontaneous. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was his idea. He wanted to try the role reversal thing. I'm not sure if he's doing it with some other hosts also.
Okay.
Um, I
Well,
and
that should also on that he utilizes your interview, as it were, on his
yeah,
station. That
so
should also
I'm coming over. We're gonna do. I don't know if it's one night this week
Oh,
or
okay.
exactly it's gonna be, uh, but I am actually coming. We're gonna do a pre-recorded because most of his is pre-recorded. I don't know
That's
that he is live on like Substack or any of the other platforms. The
okay.
only thing he's live for on Yergz Radio
Okay.
is his Sunday show, This Week in Outrage, which he does with his wife.
Right.
They just basically pick news stories and laugh at them, essentially.
News stories that they laugh at, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. It's the biggest premise that you get from it is that it's in conjunction with his concept of anger porn and just some of the stupid things that people get pissed off about.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, is this really worth
Right.
getting all ticked
Right.
off? And how else? Aren't there other things to consider here besides just that? Uh,
Mhm.
and I think that's the premise for every story that they discuss is, you know,
Gotcha.
is this
Gotcha.
really that
Is
big?
this really worth our time? Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Yep.
And of
Yep,
course, it
yep.
gets comical because of their responses to it. And they're sitting there drinking during the course of it, and he usually has some sort of beer. She usually has like a glass of wine. And not that they get trashed or anything, but it's just very relaxed and kind of a good example how to take the news today.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, speaking of the news, have you any, thoughts about all the nominations, how that's going? Do you think there'll be recess appointments? Do you think that, there will be any other resignations besides that? There have been 3 that I am aware of, or several people who have withdrawn their nomination, including Matt Gaetz.
I'm only aware of Gates. Who are the other two?
There well, I don't know the names. I haven't honestly, for my own mental health, been paying terribly much attention to the news, but I know that there were 2 people who withdrew their names from nomination because of some kind of tax fraud, or they were tax issues. I shouldn't say fraud. They were tax issues. They had back taxes that weren't paid or something like that, and so they also yeah, they also now Lars is back talking to us a
Yeah,
little
you're
bit
saying about the
about the abortion
backstory.
issue, and I
Of,
love his latest comment, "You also have to take charge of your actions when you were making the baby."
yeah,
And I had back in the day when I was teaching, and I was doing a lesson on persuasive speaking.
yeah,
My kids wanted to during election season that year, my kids wanted to debate the issues that the presidential candidates were facing at that particular time, and, I mean, this was more than 20 years ago, but, one of the issues then and now is abortion, and I remember one of my smartest students, his name was Jason, said, "Look, pro-choice is also about what you do," as Lars has said. Pro-choice is, you're you're choosing to have sex, and that particular choice the consequences of doing that are sometimes involving another life. And so
yeah.
he would express in his persuasive speech that pro-choice was not just deciding to eliminate an embryo, but it was also pro-choice in terms of having sex that could lead to consequences that you weren't expecting and
Versus,
needed to be accountable for.
yeah,
And I really respected his position. I mean, today he would be seem to be, far right or whatever in the way that he managed that particular question, but I thought he has a point there. Yeah. So Lars is only
I was going to
22?
say he is. I would consider him conservative.
Yeah. Yeah.
and Reggie, and probably also Nick, who's the guy that Nick was my coach for a while and was the guy that
Oh,
introduced
Nick, no.
Lars and
Mhm.
Reggie.
Yeah.
Nick Engels.
Okay.
Uh, and they're all faith based on some level.
Yeah.
They're
I
all
you
very
know,
practical.
I have no quarrel with people who are offended by abortion. No quarrel whatsoever. I have no
Yeah.
quarrel with people who say, well, you need to think about that when you're having sex. I have no quarrel with that whatsoever. But bottom line, for me, it's about healthcare, and nobody but me should be in charge of that. I
Yeah.
mean,
And I think
and
that's,
I also, take issue with the hypocrisy that we are defending the rights of an embryo, of a fetus, but once that child is born, we don't want to feed it. We don't want to make sure it has health care.
yeah,
We don't want to make sure it has a quality education. We're pro-birth,
yeah, same here.
not pro-life.
And that's the other thing in the verbiage itself is pro choice is not necessarily pro abortion,
Right.
just the opportunity to have the choice.
Exactly. I mean, for me, you don't believe in abortion, don't have one,
Right.
but don't decide for me.
Right. And my other issue with it is that once they make that decision, the gates are open.
Mhm.
It's the same argument that the pro Second Amendment people make.
Mhm.
That if you're going to
Yes.
come after my guns, what are you going to come after next?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Well, it's the
And
same.
then the morality of it is, this is, if you feel that you are by having an abortion, you are committing murder, then you let the judgment up to the creator. You let the judgment up to God. So
Yeah.
it's not for me to decide somebody else's judgment, but it's a complicated issue. It's always been a complicated issue. And I hate to say this, my friend, but maybe you and Lars can go back and forth now, but I've got to go on to my
Yeah.
next meeting.
No, I got to take a
So,
break anyway.
okay.
And
So I will talk to you
yeah,
this time, 12 o'clock
great
next week.
Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great meeting later today. And yeah, I will see you in a
Thank
week.
you. Take
All
care,
right.
buddy.
All right.
Bye,
Jane, tell
audience.
everybody. Yep. We'll see you next week.
I'm Jane Stahl,
And I'm Yergz.
and we've been both sides now. Take care.
Yep. We'll be back with that next week, as we are every week. Both Sides Now is usually in hour number 2, but once a month, Jane has a meeting that she goes to that takes place during hour number 2. So we do this bit during hour number 1 of our Monday show. Coming up next, David Beckemeyer will be joining us in the next 14 minutes or so. But also, we've got Pierre's Pot and Morning Motivation when we come back. 99.1 WDJY, America One Radio, and the rest of the Mastiff Media Network. You're going up the middle. We'll be back here for these words. Smell nasty. Do you want to freshen it up a little bit? Go to aromabypeter.com. Check out all of Peter's candles. It's what we burn here in Studio Yergz. I'm burning right now leather scented candle. That's right, leather scented. So go to aromabypeter.com/Yergz and check out his candles today.
I'm Jane Stahl, retired English teacher, and with my BFF, Susan B. Beck, we manage Studio B Fine Art Gallery in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. We showcase the art of hundreds of local artists, publish books of the poetry, prose, and art of local writers, offer classes, art parties, workshops, discussion groups, cater dinners. We've even hosted a wedding. And we're here to be the go-to place for friendship, learning, and fun in our community. Virtual tours of our exhibits are available right here on Yergz Radio. Let us introduce you to some amazing art and artists.
Check out Jane Stahl and everyone at Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Please visit our YouTube channel, Talk TV 24. How's your website doing? I'll tell you how mine's doing. It's awesome. Yergz.com is got to be the best website for anybody in podcasting or any sort of broadcast solo journalist like me. How did I get that? Limit Break Digital. Limit Break Digital did my website with Yergz.com. They did YergerGroup.com. They take care of my marketing, my branding, and help me get the message out to you. Go to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergz for 10% off your next project. That's a $3,000 site, Yergz.com. And you can get 10% off that by just going to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergz today. Talk to Jay. That's my guy. We all got a guy, and Jay's mine. limitbreakdigital.com. Hey gang, it's Yergz. Right now, our country is about to embark on yet another country. I've finally begun to reach out to my own listeners with Constant Contact. Use both my link and promo code CyberWeek24 and get 40% off your first 3 months. 40%! But more importantly, you'll have all the same benefits and tools that I do. All the same templates, and all of the same success. So get my Constant Contact link, where you get all of my links, by going to Yergz.com. You still have time to reach out to your contacts in time for the holidays. Go to Yergz.com, click on my Constant Contact link, and use promo code CyberWeek24 for 40% off. Remember, you need both my link and the promo code CyberWeek24. Yergz and Constant Contact. We deliver success. All right, guys. I got some other things trying to upload. I'm organizing the video file that does the commercials. You know what else I need to do? Damn it. Gotta come over here. Pierre's Pot. Pierre Robert is a disc jockey in Philadelphia that I've been listening to literally my whole life. Since 1981, he's been on 93.3 WMMR. 43 years later, he's still there. 43 years, 69-year-old, 70-year-old hippie. And he does a thing where he does a toast of the morning sauce. That, of course, is coffee in the direction of a listener or good citizen, as he calls them. Today's good citizen is David Beckemeyer. He'll be joining us in a little bit. He is the host of Outrage Overload, This Week in Outrage, Outrage Overload Science Bites, and another one, Outrage Overload OK Boomer, where he talks about generational things with Gen Z, millennials, and their comparisons to the boomers. He'll be with us in a few. He is interviewing me today. We're turning the tables a little bit. He's interviewing me on my show. And at some point, we're going to record an episode for his. So everything he's done with lowering the temperature, as he calls it, during his study of what he and other social scientists call anger porn, just like the Dan Bongino. They get on the air and they're just pissed off right away, just because that type of attitude is what gets ratings. And that's why one of the things I'm trying to do differently is not just be a Howard Stern of politics, but also be a Mr. Rogers, to politely educate and make people feel included and heard. And that's definitely something that he is very good at. So he'll be joining us in a little bit. When we come back, we got morning motivation while it's still morning, all of 8 minutes left. So we'll do that right after this. Do you have a podcast? Of course you do. It's probably one of the reasons why you listen to us. Well, I got something for you. Flowsend.ai. All you do is take your pre-recorded data, click, drag, and drop right into the inbox for FlowSend AI. Click a button, and out comes everything that you're going to need. From the transcript to content, such as keywords, titles for your episode, the timeline, posts for LinkedIn, posts for Twitter, Instagram, other smaller platforms, all the things that it takes you hours to do in literally minutes. So go to flowsend.ai. Tell them Yergz sent you and get your subscription today. Worth every penny. Flowsend.ai. So while we're waiting for David to join, morning motivation is going to come to us from Robert Herjavec, one of the sharks from the TV show The Shark Tank. Oh, you can read that there. Good. The day someday isn't on a calendar. And again, he's an investor. He's a tech company guy. He does a lot of IT security. The Herjavec Group, I think it is. And his thing is the day someday isn't on the calendar, meaning that you're going to do something. You're going to fix something. You're going to tackle something on your to-do list. Whatever it is, you're going to say, someday I'm going to repair the jet skis that are out on the dock. Someday I'm going to build a second floor on this house. Someday I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing. Someday is not on a calendar. What does that mean? It means get off your ass and pick that day. Yesterday, my friend Joe visited, and we actually began 2 items on my to-do list. The jet skis out back and the minivan out front. You might remember back in July, I was headed to a late night show down in the city at WMNN. W Mary Nancy Mary, the NPR station here in the Tampa area. I was being interviewed by my friend Christopher Lawrence for the Big Gay Happy Gay Show or something like that. It's a Wednesday night into Thursday, 3-hour show. Starts at midnight Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Goes till 3 a.m. on Thursday. And it's music, it's comedy, it's interview. But on my way there, I hit a curb rather aggressively and caused 2 flat tires on the minivan. Did not make it to the interview, of course. And ever since, I've been needing to do some other minor repairs to the front end. If I let them go, it's going to be major repair. So right now I need to get the passenger side front struts fixed, repaired, replaced. But because of how that kind of shook the vehicle and because of the age of the vehicle, it's not going to make sense to replace the one and not replace the other. So the place that fixed my tires gave an estimate of about $1,000. And that's without, that is without the alignment that has to be done after the fact. So I thought, well, I don't have to do it right away. Although you never know when it's going to fully give out. So I'm kind of playing Russian roulette. But I do have time to find somebody to do it cheaper that's still going to do it as good. The whole reason I went to this tire place in the first place is because the owner was a friend of my buddy Joe, not knowing that it was recently sold. But they're still a good place. Still going to continue to go to them. Place on 19 called Precision Tire down in Newport Richey. Definitely recommend them. They did great. But I do think the price for both front struts were a bit pricey. Joe can do better. And so that's one of the things we're looking for this weekend. It was not someday. It was a plan in place. He visited, looked over the situation. We looked into what it was going to cost to get the replacement parts, minus his discount that he's going to get at his supplier. And so I'm going to save some amount of money, knowing that it is going to be done right. There are going to be concerns taken into it if he finds something else, and he's going to let me know. If there's nothing that needs to be looked at, then it's fine. That, and having been fighting PTSD, depression, anxiety, I have not been on either of those jet skis since April of 2023, a couple weeks before my other Mastiff, Moby, passed away. I saw him declining. I wanted to spend the time with him. Sadly, I was right. I did lose him. And I haven't been on those skis ever since. That was a rough summer. Zach and I went through a few things, but that was a lot less. The bigger issues between Zach and me were not between the two of us so much as that they were against the state of Florida, who I would not trust. I mean, Florida screwed me in the adoption process with Zach. Florida screwed me here with the house. Governor Ron DeSantis stood in this driveway and said, help is on the way. That was the last time that I heard from the state of Florida. Pasco County has been great. Government's been okay. I think they've got some issues too. But point being, I didn't just say someday I'm going to fix my jet skis. There's a plan in place. I'm getting money from my insurance company. I get paid later this week. Some of that money is going to be going to putting me back on the water. And that's why you got to make an actual plan versus a wish, but you're not going to get anything done. Same thing for the second story. And when I'm finished with today's show, I'm going to be making some phone calls, trying to get the money that I'm owed from FEMA, and also get a structural engineer out here to really fully decide what exactly has to be done to build up. Are these block walls strong enough to support an additional structure, or do I need pillars put into the ground and then beams on top of the pillars? Stay tuned. That'll be coming. But for the rest of today, we have a guest we're turning it over to. This is now his show. You know him from on Yergz Radio, both with Outrage Overload, as well as every Sunday. He and his wife co-host together This Week in Outrage. Joining us today, our friend David Beckemeyer. David, welcome.
Hey, Yergz, how's it going?
How's everything?
Good.
Well, it's all yours.
Yeah, so you have to. Yeah, so I don't know all your buttons to push and stuff, so you may still have to do that part. But otherwise, yeah, it's my show today.
Well, that's all right. Yeah, have at it.
Yeah. So
where did you get the idea?
I saw some podcaster talked about this, and I thought that would be a cool idea. I want to try it.
Yeah.
I thought that would be interesting. I think it was the How to Podcast series. The guy in Canada, Dave Campbell.
Oh yeah,
I think it was the show.
Yeah.
I saw him talk about it on one of his episodes.
I saw a bunch of different. I guess he does mostly like Zoom, and then he actually puts out a podcast too.
Yeah,
I saw a bunch of different invites through Meetup, I think.
Right.
He's got
Yeah, he
coming
has
up.
a Saturday little thing that's kind of a cool little get together, kind of like the thing we do on Thursdays.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I was going to
Well,
go through some
all
stuff,
yours.
and I know you've talked about some of this stuff. So I was maybe going to pull out some stuff that might be a little different than you've talked about before, just to see if we can learn some new stuff about you, Yergz.
Okay.
And one thing I haven't heard you talk a lot about is the experience with the Olympic Training Center. So what was that like? And is there something that really stands out from that experience?
I was there twice. First time to be a referee for hockey. The second time to learn how to be an instructor to teach other referees how to be referees. One thing that stands out from it, my dad keeps calling. I'm like, yeah, if you paid any attention to my life, you know I'm on the radio right now. I didn't know that 1980 was not the first time Lake Placid hosted the Winter Olympics. There was another in the big building that was the arena. There was another whole arena down the hallway that was smaller because life was smaller then. But in 1932, Lake Placid, New York also hosted the Olympics, the Winter Olympics. And that building was appropriately called the 1932 arena as compared to the 1980 arena. And then there's a smaller practice arena, which is where we spent most of our time. Probably biggest takeaway, anytime you put two people together, there's politics.
For sure.
And the biggest lesson I learned about both pro ice hockey and baseball, just because you're qualified to work that level doesn't mean you're going to. And just because you do work that level doesn't necessarily mean you're qualified. There's a lot of politics that goes into that. I mean, just look at the NHL currently. The officials in the NHL have two brothers that are, I think, both linesmen. There was a father-son combo, but the father passed away back in the 80s. But his son was now a referee. Actually, still is a referee. He's a good one. Don't get me wrong. But again, did dad have a little bit to do with him getting there? Probably. There was another one who left. His dad was a referee, but the son left. Baseball was all over the place. Brothers, father, son, you name it. I mean, that was like the mafia. But I don't regret it. I had a great time. Hockey and baseball. Lake Placid's a beautiful town. Lake Placid is like a train set. When you see those trains, model train in like somebody's attic or in a museum, Lake Placid is like a train set. It's just picturesque, hillside, mountainside. I got to jog up and down the stairs for the ski jump. You'll let you go down and at the bottom you go up a ramp and there we did California. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So I was going to talk about the Secret Service stuff, but some stuff that maybe other folks haven't learned. And in case you're kind of just tuning in and wondering what's going on, we're today turning the tables. I'm interviewing Ross, and so you listeners can learn a little bit more about the guy we all call Yergz. So on the Secret Service side, I was going to talk a little bit about some of the behind the scenes kind of stuff. Like, is there something like just some mundane thing that doesn't have sort of high drama, but left a big impression on you?
If protection is done right, it's boring. And I've lost count of the number of stairwells, basements, because right up there is a stage that the president is standing at. Or right inside that door is the hallway that the president's suite is at. And if it's done right, it's boring as all get out. What we saw this past summer was not done right. And again, getting back to some of the political BS, we were constantly told that the president's details the best of the best. That's not always true. And I think what we're learning now, what we people on the outside, because now that's where I'm at, are learning now is that there is a system of smoke and mirrors and complacency. Something like what happened in Butler was bound to happen at some point. And I'm not for the Secret Service being gutted or total crazy overhaul, but there are definitely some gaps. There are definitely some learning opportunities. And I think the biggest one is to listen to the people that have been telling you there are these gaps. I'm anxious to see what happens with the next director in the Trump administration. I suspect one of the reasons why the replacement for Kim Cheadle, who resigned, was not actually nominated is because he might be liked kind of by both sides. And he may be either nominated by President Trump, incoming President Trump, or left at the acting director status, at least for a good while. Because from what I understand, he seems to be cleaning things up. From the reports, from things that didn't make it to the reports, things that they already kind of knew about and didn't really talk about because it would just make matters worse. It's not everything. I think the biggest thing that I learned early on that I kind of knew, but not to the degree that I learned it. It's not, the Secret Service is not everything you see on TV. It's not a bunch of guys wearing really nice suits and the earpiece standing alongside the president all day. There's a lot of people you see who are not standing alongside the president, many of whom are not wearing suits. Towards the end, I did just as much protection in khakis, cargo pants, or some sort of button-up shirt than I did in a suit and tie.
That I was going to ask about that a little bit more. So, what else does Hollywood sort of get wrong about the Secret Service, and what do they get? Like, what surprised you that they actually sort of get right?
The thing they get wrong in every cop movie, everywhere, right before the hero is about to use his or her gun, they take the slide and they rack it back and chamber around.
Yeah.
That is such a waste. If you have any intention of using that gun, it would already have that round chambered. And without getting into too many firearms lessons, you would take the magazine out and do what's called top it off, meaning put the round that you just put in the barrel, replace in the magazine.
Yeah, it's funny about that. Like in all movies that use guns, especially like you say, an automatic that you rack, they're racking that thing like 5 times. Like each time they'd be ejecting a cartridge they already put in there before they shoot. They're always racking it one more time. It's like, what are you doing?
My favorite, most dramatic scene where that's being done is in the movie The Fugitive. Tommy Lee Jones is chasing Harrison Ford to the hospital. And he's chasing him down this long hallway to a checkpoint. And Harrison Ford just gets through the guards who are reaching out over the table to try to grab him. The ballistic doors close on his foot, and Tommy Lee Jones is running down the hallway, and he's got his hand up in the air, racking the gun, and he points and shoots at a fleeing felon, which is illegal. You have to be able to articulate that the person fleeing that you shot while they were running away from you is a threat to society, which somebody who's trying to prove their innocence is probably not. But he's racking the slide back, and then he shoots at the glass, which is ballistic. And he shoots again, which isn't going to do any good except cause a ricochet, which what could happen, right? Which sucks because I like Tommy Lee Jones, but something they get right. Clint Eastwood made the comment in the movie In the Line of Fire about how we're out positioned around the limo during a parade. And I mentioned earlier about the smoke and mirrors. He talks about how it takes a damn anti-tank missile to put a dent in that thing, referring to the limo. But there we are out there for show. Yeah, that's useless. We're not going to do a damn thing. You can, even if we're there to prevent somebody from running up onto the car itself, you can't open the car doors. Not only because they're locked, obviously, but there's a trick to manipulating the handle. It's not a standard handle. And I can't get into it more than that, right, because that's classified, but it's not the president's Cadillac has two pieces of equipment on it. The only two pieces are parts of the car that are not altered in some way from the original Cadillac that it would be are the front Cadillac emblem and the back Cadillac emblem. That's it. Everything else has changed. That's and so funny. His line, but there we are out there for show. Yeah, they got that one right. He's right. Yeah. Totally unnecessary.
So was there somebody that you met, while you're at the Secret Service that was, whether it's an agent or just a civilian or someone in general, or maybe someone even you were protecting, who kind of inspired you or changed the way, like in some big way, your worldview?
Worldview? No,
like in a quiet way too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a story I like to tell. I was on an assignment called Prowler. Prowler is a plainclothes response team that drives around the White House and does threat analysis type responses. And this guy gets in his car one day, drives the 8 hours or however long it takes to get from his place in Massachusetts to the White House. Because, of course, he needs to talk to the president. Well, if you haven't figured out, he was off his meds. And that's why he decided to make the decisions he did. Because to him, they were perfectly normal. And when we came to that conclusion, and I explained to him that it was in his best interest to get back on those meds, I referred to the medication not as like antibiotics that you take for a set period of time and then you're better and you're good. I said, these are like weightlifting supplements. You take these in conjunction with other things in your life that continually improve your condition and your lifestyle and your quality of life. When I took away the stigma of his meds being psych meds and gave it the illusion of weightlifting supplements, he couldn't get to the hospital fast enough to get back on his meds. And it was a real solid influence to him. So I used that. I ran into the doctor one day that taught us protective intelligence, the guy who ran St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Southeast DC. And I told him that story. He took that story back to the academy and began sharing that analogy with other agents. So that was definitely a positive. From actual celebrities, of course, my protection time was with the Clintons from 2007 to 2010. And I had just come on the detail. It was late one night. I was about to work at midnight. And Hillary got back to the house late. And for whatever reason, somebody gifted her a bunch of Dixie cup ice cream things. And she has them in this cooler. So she carries the cooler into the outside, like kind of like guest house. It's just a pool house with an outdoor kitchen for barbecuing. And we're loading these Dixie cups into the freezer. And she's seen me around. And she knows I'm new to the detail, obviously, because she hasn't seen me before. And she just sticks her hand out to introduce herself. And she says, "Tell me your name." As opposed to saying, "Hi, my name's Hillary." At which point I would say, "Yeah, no shit. Of course I know you." She had a down-to-earth manner about herself. She knows who she is. She knows I know who she is. She doesn't know who I am. That's the one missing piece to this puzzle. Let's fix that. And I constantly get to this day, I get, was she really a bitch? Could be. Have I heard her chew some ass? Yes. But they were asses that needed to be chewed. If Bill does it, that's leadership.
Right.
She does it, she's a bitch.
Right.
That's a perfect definition of a double standard. And that's what they're going up against. She, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It's a tough, like women can never meet that standard, right? Because it's always that fine line. You're not tough enough, or you're, yeah.
The media asks you questions about your colors of your pantsuits instead of your position on relevant things.
I like that one newscaster guy that kind of has a statement, wore like the exact same suit and tie for like a year, and no one said one word to him. Not one word. Yeah.
Yep.
So last question about the Secret Service stuff before we move. I want to start talking about the podcast and what you're doing now a little bit more, and the radio and everything else. So when you look back on your time with the Secret Service, what's something that you hope Zach will remember about his dad's career, and why?
He wasn't around for it. I'm kind of glad, because there were a lot of missed holidays. There was a lot of travel. There was a lot of last minute travel. And I can just imagine as a dad saying, "We're going to go do this, that, or the other thing this weekend," with the caveat, if I don't get picked up for a protection assignment, or I'm probably going to get picked up again. We'll have to do it when I get back, if I don't get picked up again. So the not being home, the not being around, I'm home here. I get bored. I think that's probably one of the reasons why I started a podcast. Not in addition to the fact that when I saw Bongino and Carlson, I know we'll probably talk about this later, but when I saw them get fired, I'm like, you know what? I can do better.
Well, let's go ahead and get into that. So, yeah, what inspired you to launch the, Up the Middle?
Well, first it was actually doggy traders.
Right.
I started day trading in effort to develop a better retirement in the process of leaving. And I had such a great first year. I wanted to share that. Problem is, I still wasn't an expert. And to this day, I do something now that I've done then, and that is I share and make available my show notes, my research, so that if you watch an episode and I make some statement that is some basis in fact, there's a citation for that statement. And you can go to yergz.com or message me if it's not on yergz.com yet and say, hey, I want to fact check you. Show me your show notes. And you can do it. When I was realizing Doggy Traders wasn't working, I was lying in bed one day when I got the news that Dan Bongino was fired from Fox News. Dan Bongino is a former Secret Service agent who is not really liked by most of us at the Secret Service.
So you knew him before?
Yeah, we worked together. Not a lot, not heavily, but I knew who he was. As I say to this day, we laughed at him when he was at the Secret Service. We laughed at him at Fox News, and we laugh at him today. He is not in touch with the real reality of politics. And when I saw him get fired, I knew Fox News had been lying to the people that watch their shows for years. I would be at an event, and it would be covered by David Beckemeyer from Fox News. And I get home, and I see that coverage on the news. And I call Jane Stahl, who was an agent with me at the site. I say, Jane, was David Beckemeyer covering for Fox News today? And she would shake her head and go, yeah. What event was he watching? Because that ain't what happened. And it was like that all the time. And it was like that for CNN too, but not to the degree that Fox News twisted things. I would say especially during the 2012 campaign with Romney and Obama. So Fox had been lying for years. And when he got fired, it was on a Saturday. I was lying in bed when I saw, I think, come across my iPad. I said, I can do better. And then sure enough, by Monday, Tucker Carlson went with him. And I'm keeping a level of honesty with it. Not necessarily heavy on the anger porn. And that's probably hurt me. But there's the honesty is there. And I'd rather have that.
Well, yeah. So I was going to ask about that a little bit. So how do you find that balance, with the polarized political landscape we're in? I mean, how do you stay true to that commitment to sort of try to be fair and impartial?
I just came up with a new tagline for Up the Middle. Given that I've been watching one of my contemporaries on YouTube, a guy named Hassan Piker, who's definitely progressive and admits it, as anybody that leans one way or another should. I am honestly trying to present both sides. I'm much more critical of the right at the current time, but they're the ones that, keep getting their ass kicked. As I say, at risk of sounding a little angry, they're the ones that keep stepping on their dick. But I do try to present both sides. I do present the citations so that if I am skewed, you can call me out for it. But also say that it's politics for the rest of us. I do believe there's a certain number of independents or fed up conservatives, Blake Fisher, for example, fed up liberals that think there are certain left-leaning people that have gone too far left for a while, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris being two of them, that will eventually come to me and hear both sides. We had, when I was in the operations center at the Washington field office, it's kind of like a dispatcher for the DC area for the Secret Service. We would have a bunch of TVs on the wall. And as a joke, we'd have all the different news outlets on running at the same time. But as a joke, we put it on the political spectrum. On the far right was Fox News. On the far left was MSNBC. And somewhere in the middle was CNN and whatever else we had room for. See you, buddy. Love you too. At no time was there ever a Fox News alert or CNN breaking news telling the same story. That never happened. There was always something different, or at a minimum, the titles of the story, if it was relatively same, that was that big that they were going to tell the same story, the titles were clearly different, and it was a different slant. And I'm like, there's got to be some exposure of this. Who's going to call out Fox News? Who's going to call out CNN? And I'm not saying I'm the first one to start that movement, but I think I'm representative of a bunch of different independent news journalists, entertainers, whatever we are, commentary, that are pushing that movement forward.
Well, yeah. So on that point, do you think, the idea of this sort of finding the middle and based on that concept of calling out some of that, do you think that middle ground in politics is growing, shrinking, or maybe we just don't know?
I thought it was growing. I thought by the last year, when I was 5 or 6 months into Up the Middle as a podcast, and I first appeared on Jane's podcast, the Be Inspired podcast, she asked me how fast I expected my audience to grow. And I thought there would be some sizable growth by this past presidential election. Not as much as what I thought. I'm kind of disappointed. I thought there would be that silent majority that is fed up with the right, can see through Trump's bullshit, but also wants to know more about the left before they really make a decision. And it just seems to be split down the middle, or partisan, right or left, more than ever. So I don't know where that's at. I just put together the presentation I gave last Thursday. We have this misconception that talk radio is filled with white guys that are conservative. There are plenty of independents, according to actual statistics, that listen to talk radio. Where? Because they're not calling in.
Well, that's the question I had about this too, because we call our shows podcasts, and are we even podcasts? Like, it's sort of, we are sort of in some ways technically, but I wonder if we're just, sometimes the language is wrong, and people as sort of a distribution. But that sort of takes me to you doing the radio with it too, right? So you are a radio broadcaster as well, or I don't know if that's even the right language. I don't even know the right language for it.
I have the same. Yep, let me jump in because I'm with you. I don't like to call my daily show, this right here, a radio show. It's on the radio. We're on the radio right now in Atlanta. And, we'll be on, in fact, tomorrow we'll be on in London. Friday we'll be on in London. We were for a little bit on in Las Vegas, but they got their head up their ass. That's radio, sure. But we're also on 8 different destinations of social media that has video.
Yeah, where are people streaming this? Could watch this streaming right now? You got YouTube. You got
2 YouTube channels,
Facebook.
Up the Middle, the channel specifically for this show. Then I've got another general podcasting channel called Talk TV 24, and there it is, TV. That's not radio. So what am I doing?
Yeah.
And the fact that I have gone back to, I let it slip for a while, unfortunately, but I have gone back to taking the show and putting it into a traditional RSS feed, as we know podcasts to be. And so it's now once again there as well. So I've just gone for, until I can come up with a better name for what we're doing, it's just a broadcast. And I don't even use live stream because while that's what it is now, that's not what it's going to be when you watch the episode via an RSS feed. It's already recorded.
Right.
There's nothing live about it. So, yeah, I'm just using right now the word broadcast and let the listener, wherever they're at, define it further from there.
Well, and that's kind of the world we're in now. The listeners kind of are defining what these words mean for us. But
Yeah.
one reason I brought it up in that context, because it might also apply to this idea of, whether this idea of the middle is growing or shrinking or not, because maybe it is growing, but they don't know where to find somebody like you. They don't know how to find what to look for to find somebody like what you're doing, that kind of thing, right? I mean, I think it's not all discoverability, but I think there is a discoverability aspect to it, perhaps. And because again, there's not really any language about it. Up the middle is a good, one thing people could look for, but what search terms are people using to find a show like yours, and where would it lead them?
So that's why I got rid of two of my initial titles. My first radio show that was just on Yergz radio and just on live audio only was called Yergz Tonight. And it was obviously, as the name suggested, in the evening. But who the hell is Yergz? And why would I look for that person?
Mm-hmm.
And I got over myself quickly because I'm not Anderson Cooper. I'm not Wolf Blitzer.
You're not Rachel Maddow or whatever, yeah.
Or Tucker Carlson, or either end of the spectrum. So I brought some other guys on board, and we did a show on Fridays. I was over lunchtime. We moved to lunchtime hour, and we called it the Lunchtime Happy Hour, suggesting maybe we're sitting there having a few drinks, talking about different things like you do at a happy hour. Still not good enough because it didn't really define that we were talking about politics. So that's when I reused or recycled the Up the Middle brand, which had been on a hiatus from the podcast, and went from there. Now I'm improving the tagline. I'm getting rid of things like the where we talked about equally biased, equally offensive, getting rid of all the angry stuff. And now I'm calling it politics for the rest of us. Politics is in the tagline. And rest of us is in the tagline. So when they might not search that, but when they see it, they're going to say, well, this guy's not conservative. Okay, he's liberal. Oh, he's not liberal. It's for the rest of us. And hopefully that'll take off better.
So you talk about, you use this jet ski analogy. So let's dive into that a little bit. So like, okay. You say you're sort of taking people on a up the middle ride on a jet ski, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
So what does that metaphor mean? Like, and how does it reflect, the tone and the purpose of your show?
The jet ski was a personal reference to what's sitting right outside, but also they're not exactly slow moving. So I wanted to really attack some of the issues in the moment, and as you're hearing about them, and as they're happening in some cases, which is why Blake, Matt, and I don't usually engage in our 3-way Facebook chat to prepare for the Friday show until maybe Wednesday night. Because some of the things that happened during the course of the day, Monday and Tuesday, or over the previous weekend, by the time Friday comes around, they're old news. Unless it's that big of a deal, like maybe Matt Gaetz dropping out or something along those lines. As far as the jet ski and up the middle, it's a reference to the political spectrum, the right and the left. I capitalize the and right and the and left because it's a specific place on the political spectrum, which is why in the title Up the Middle, the is also capitalized, even though you wouldn't normally do that in a title, because the middle is a very specific place on the political spectrum. And that's where we hopefully take people by not claiming there's bias, and everybody has bias. You and I can sit aside of each other, watch the same event, and then tell the same story about what we just watched, have very different stories, and both be 100% accurate. That's a normal bias. That's human. But what we also try to do is give a listener or reader or viewer enough information, and more importantly, the citations for our information, so they can take it further beyond us. I hate when I hear somebody say, I saw on Fox News, or I saw on Facebook, or I saw on the internet. My mom says that, oh, well, I saw it on Facebook. Yeah, that's why you don't believe it, is because you saw it on Facebook. I just want to be a starting point. And at some point in your investigation, I'm going to hand you the handlebars of the jet ski, and you're going to take it from there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. So many threads we could pull on there. But so what's so I have a good one. So what's something that you really want to a topic that you really want to tackle that you're looking forward to that you just haven't been able to do yet?
We were actually going to begin it this past Friday, but the guys brought up some other things that, with Trump still naming nominees to his cabinet, there's the likelihood of us planning on something for Friday, and Matt Gaetz drops out. We got to talk about that. I want to compare. I want to do an actual comparison, line by line, characteristic by characteristic comparison of Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. Because when I think people see the actual workings, the actual behaviors of Hitler, they will see the likelihood that there is a big similarity with him and Donald Trump. And
there was a Netflix document. I think it was Netflix. There was a documentary somebody did recently that it didn't intentionally make those points, but you could tell they were definitely hinting at that. Yeah, I forget what the documentary was called. Yeah, the problem is, of course, that's hard to do because people turn off pretty fast once you start making those kind of comparisons.
Because and this happened. I think it was on a LinkedIn. I always refer to Facebook fights because of Facebook fight, 2 Fs. But I think this one was actually on LinkedIn. Somebody tried to shame me for making such a comparison. How can you say that Hitler killed more than 6 million Jews? I said, well, actually, it was 7. But Trump already killed a million Americans. Give him some time. But maybe he's not there yet. Maybe we're still in 1935, 36, 37, 38. He's just getting warmed up. And now, here we come to what people are saying could be, I say is already. And that is 1, a civil war here in the United States. And 2, World War III. They say, well, just because there's multiple conflicts doesn't mean that, there's sides chosen. I'm like, really? Iran is against Israel. You think they're not supported or talking to China and Russia and North Korea? By the way, they already are. We know that. And we're not talking with Israel or Ukraine. And most of Western Europe isn't talking with both of those two.
I would definitely come back for a whole show about all these topics at some point. Because I mean, I kind of didn't want the show to go this show to go that way, but yeah, we could definitely talk about that stuff for a long time.
Oh,
and talking about kind of you kind of have the jet ski. When I was thinking about the jet ski, and of course Trump comes up. He always comes up. He always manages to come up. I was thinking about the jet ski and the way that he kind of manipulates the media and sends in all these different directions you're even talking about. Like you can't even start doing the show until midnight on Thursday or whatever, right? Because things are changing too fast. But it's like that jet ski. I'm thinking about that jet ski now is just going 1,000 directions at once, like a chasing a laser pointer.
Yeah. And actually, that's funny you say laser pointer, because And maybe it was you, but I just heard somebody use that reference that Trump has a laser pointer and the media is trying to follow that laser pointer, and they're missing the big ball of yarn that's right there in front of them.
Yeah, they're not doing their job. They're not serving us well
Right.
by just chasing the laser pointer around. They're not really, they've lost sight of what their role is.
Yeah, 100%. This was, I forget where I saw this, but somebody from the mainstream media admitted this was the first presidential election that had much less influence by the mainstream media when compared to us independent social media journalists.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother question. Like, are we journalists? What is a journalist anymore, right? I mean, I'm taking journalism school, but I don't have a degree in journalism.
You know, Donald Trump doesn't have a degree in politics or law. He is practicing and enforcing it. So, yeah, what is a journalist today? What is, and I was just watching, there's like an hour, 20 hour and a half minute interview with Hassan Piker, who is his uncle is Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks. He's a Turkish young man, early 30s. His show is only on Twitch. He's got an exclusive contract with Twitch. Has a following, a subscription following of more than 50,000 people a month. I mean, if he's charging $5 a month for that subscription, he's making $250,000 a month just on the subscription side. Forget about, the ad spots as well. And he answered, "I'm not a journalist. I follow journalists, and they're out in the field doing the investigative reporting and the on-the-scene reporting. I'm the guy. I'm the anchor. I'm an entertainer. I'm the guy back in the studio." And, I get that. But if I'm going to do research as well, whether it's scrutinizing another journalist like me, whether it's, watching Up the Middle or rather Outrage Overload or, the Young Turks or Dan Bongino or any of those guys, I'm still providing. It's not like I'm Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert sitting there literally making fun about these people. If I'm doing some sort of analytical thinking based on my political science degree, based on my 21 years in the Secret Service, based on, I know personally, some of the people we're talking about, that's journalism. And as long as I maintain a certain level of integrity and doesn't become editorialism, I'm giving you an opinion based on the facts as I've seen them, not an opinion researching to support my opinion. Then I think that's the thing about today. There's no Walter Cronkites anymore, where it's just facts, boring as all get out, but has a certain level of accuracy. Everybody wants to, give you their so-called expert opinion. Just because they got a $500 microphone in front of their face doesn't make them an expert. And people don't see that. And that's where I think it gets dangerous.
Right. It's kind of like a website can have nice graphics and nice fonts, but there's no real meat to it, right? It looks the same as the New York Times, but yeah, it's not the same as the New York Times.
Yeah, and that's I did earlier in my career, my broadcasting career, last year. I did 2 or 3 episodes. Excuse me. I did 2 or 3 episodes on not only how to fact check, but why to fact check. Don't take everything that I tell you as gospel. Call me out on it. And that's what I said. Do your homework, do your job, do your homework. And nobody wants to do that. They think, Google is doing their homework.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to ask the questions at the same time.
Right. Yeah. It's tough. It's a lot of work. It's a big, it's a tall order. That's why I think that's why journalism is kind of letting us down, because it's too hard to do it. Right. I mean, this was where Walter Cronkite came in. Right. Right. You could sort of a trusted source. I didn't have to do all that work myself.
And I get it as a viewer, as somebody at home in their living room. They just worked an 8+ hour day at a real job. They don't have to come. That's why they turn on the news, is to learn something. But I say, don't just watch Fox News. Watch Fox and MSNBC.
Or even better, just CBS News and your local news, probably learn more.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, get it from both sides of a political spectrum. Get different arguments. Just get different opinions. Even if they're both liberal, get different opinions. You'll still find that. CNN isn't always going to agree with MSNBC. They'll have different viewpoints.
Well, and you have PBS NewsHour, you have CBS News, you have, there's other sources that aren't quite as partisan as those couple of those main ones.
Right.
And CNN, we don't know where they're going yet. Like, I don't know where they're going to land.
Right. And apparently MSNBC, I just learned this yesterday. MSNBC and CNBC are being cut from NBC.
Yeah, there's something going on with that, right? They're trying to fork it off or something.
NBC is needing to fix the bottom line. And so they're trimming the fat, but they're not getting rid of the networks altogether. Apparently some other conglomerate is, I guess, buying them.
I suspect they're packaging them up for sale, I think, but I don't know.
And, sorry. I mean, he was leaving anyway, but Chris Wallace said that he was leaving CNN to explore the podcasting realm. Well, what we didn't know until later was his show at CNN was going to be canceled. And his role as an anchor was going to be as an occasional consultant, or not consultant, but the color analyst of politics, as opposed to a primary host or anchor of a show. And so he said he was going to leave to explore podcasting. I think you talked to her too. Julie, her last name's, I'm brain farting.
Julie Rose.
Sirius and NPR. Actually, I think she still might be with NPR, but she left Sirius to go into podcasting. I talked with another guy at the same Las Vegas station that I kind of sort of was at for a short time, who's at that station, who's not looking to go to other radio stations. He's looking to go to other social media platforms, because as we found out with this election, that's where everybody's going. And I think that the biggest, I mean, I'm in my living room. Before this, I was on the other side of that wall right there in my garage, because the studio on the other end of the house was flooded. I'm still operational. 60 years ago, this would be a massive construction site before we'd be operational again. So it doesn't take a lot to be able to put something like this on. And I think that's the dangerous side. Like you said about two competing websites. One looks like the New York Times. The other one is the New York Times. Which one do you believe? And in some cases, the one that looks like the New York Times might be the accurate one. And so now...
Well, and the other thing is, you can't just say that one good story at a site doesn't mean every story they have is good. That's another problem too, 100%. Right?
That's where Jennifer Furlong from Ad Fontes Media and her former colleagues come in. Somebody's got to fact check the fact checkers.
But
And,
even
and
if it's at the publication level,
back.
it's still a little bit of a problem, right? Because it's going to be like an average of their good and bad stories, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough. It's a heavy lift for listeners. All right, so I want to get a few more things about the show and a couple more personal stuff since we're running out of time here. So I want to ask about your podcast legacy. So if somebody looks back on this up the middle work, years from now, what do you want to have resonate with them the most?
That at minimum that I tried to bring something honest and genuine and thought out. I'm doing this for them. I don't need to sit here with a microphone in front of my face. I'd rather be out on my jet skis. But like I said that day when Dan Bongino was fired, I can do better. And that at least they see that I tried to do that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so he's kind of your anti-hero.
You have no idea.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the jet ski thing for a moment. So if you could take one politician, actually, let's do one from each side. So you could take somebody that's left and somebody that's right on a real jet ski ride, like a literal jet ski ride. Who would they be? And then what questions would you ask him while going 90 miles an hour on the jet ski?
Adam Kinzinger and Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, good choices.
I think they're both very down to earth. And not that I wouldn't want to take Liz Cheney, but I think she's more into a snowmobile than a jet ski. I think they're both very down to earth, practical, realistic, and you can talk to them. And
for sure.
You get an honest, practical answer. And I think the other thing is that if I had 3 jet skis and we were each on our own ski, we wouldn't crash into each other and we would be able to, beach it somewhere and have a conversation together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what we all need. We need more of that as we each talk about a lot on our shows. I guess meat and potatoes on the podcast before we move on to a couple other things. So somebody's listening. Well, actually, does this go out, in RSS feed later, or are you putting less energy into that these days?
Yep. No, I will.
So I'm listening to this. Listeners listening to this. It's not live. They're a week out or whenever it is. Where should they go? Like, give us the websites, give us all that stuff that makes sure people know, because somebody might just be hearing this for the first time.
Mastiff.media.
And if I go there, will I find like all your other places so I could find your YouTube?
That is that is like my link tree.
So Mastiff Media.
Mastiff.media. I always say www.mastiff.media, but that actual link doesn't work. If you go to https://mastiff.media, if you enter in all that stuff, then I can put it in the private chat too. Then it works. And usually I think just typing in mastiff.media works as well. But
how many F's are in Mastiff?
2.
Okay. Just make sure we get it right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that takes you to a link tree.
Yeah, it's actually a website. It's actually a secure socket layer website.
Yeah,
but the kid that made the site for me, I said, for right now, to keep it cheap and what have you, just put the links to where you can get the show. Just like Linktree. Well, he goes and puts some stock photo up there.
Perfect.
I don't know where that camera or whatever it is it came from. And he actually put the word Linktree. Like, dude, that's somebody else's brand. That's not us. But yeah. So,
but people do kind of know what it means.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
A friend of mine that was talking with us earlier says that MSNBC is for sale for like about $1 billion or something.
Yeah, there was some talk that Elon Musk wants to buy it or something. Yeah.
Ugh. Another network or platform for him to screw up.
Yeah. So, I wanted to move on to a couple of personal things if you have time, or I don't know if you need to wrap up now.
I got a couple of minutes. Yeah.
I was going to ask, how has being a father shaped, your perspective on politics and fairness and just a general worldview?
We actually still need to complete. I mean, he just left. That was him and his girlfriend about 20 minutes ago. We actually still need to legally complete the adoption, which I want to do because if there's something that happens to either one of us, that solidifies the rights of the other person.
Mhm.
But also, it allows me during this open season for healthcare to get him on my health insurance, which is way better than what the state of Florida is getting him.
Mhm.
And now Donald Trump comes along and wants to dismantle all of that. Earlier on the show today, Jane and I were talking about the fact that there are Trump supporters who don't know that the Affordable Care Act, something that they're for, is the same thing as Obamacare, something that they're against. It's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah,
Now tell me
I kind of wonder how pervasive that is. I keep seeing that message. I kind of wonder how I know that it was more true in the past, but it may still be true now.
that people don't know the difference or that there isn't
Yeah,
a difference.
that people that don't know the difference. I mean, don't know that they're the same thing.
I think when you watch something like Jimmy Kimmel and he goes out on Hollywood Boulevard and interviews people about, and they say Africa's a country and they don't know where this, that, or the other place is. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that we elected Trump. I'm disappointed. I'm bummed, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Biden and Harris ran the shitty campaign that they did. Because
I think Harris was put in a pretty tough situation.
that
was
agreed. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, she did to herself. I mean, she did herself a few harms, but yeah, it wasn't. That was a tough situation she got thrown in.
Yeah, and yeah, we are now in. I shouldn't say we, but I'm not a Trump supporter, so I guess the Democrats are now in the situation that I had since 2019, the Republican Party in. And that is like a sports team. Your team is young, it's inexperienced. We're not going to the playoffs this year. Let's have a good season. Let's learn, let's develop, and let's come back next year. In this case, now 2028. Well, we had the Miracle team, the Miracle on Ice back in 1980, and the young kids won the championship after all. Now the Democrats are the ones in the developing year and need to come back stronger, maybe in 2032.
Well, and there are midterms coming up too, right? So you got 2026.
No, but I mean, as far as presidential elections, lick your wounds, develop that candidate that you know is going to be solid and strong, as opposed to forcing somebody through like Trump did with himself and like the Democrats did with Kamala.
And maybe it's like the Democrats 2004. Maybe that's what they have to think about.
Yeah.
So let me finish with this one. So if Matrix could talk, what do you think he'd say about the life you've built and the journey you've been on?
Well, he's over here sleeping without the puppy.
You lost the puppy?
I don't know where she went. I don't think Zach took her. I don't know where she's at. I guess she's in on the bed. If Matrix could talk, well, I'd say he probably misses his older brother, Moby, who passed away about 18 months ago. Yeah, he's crossed the country with me twice. He's been through same number of hurricanes I've been through. I think he's probably wishing I actually retired instead of retired and picked up this little hobby. One of the things I wanted to do with him when Moby passed away was spend more time with him, and I've got to refocus on that, especially now that Shady came along. It's not just going to be him. So when I'm finished here, I'm going to call my dad back and spend some time with the pups before I get working on tracking down FEMA and structural engineers and editing this for RSS feeds and so on. But yeah, he's going to say, Dad, you need to do what you said you were going to do and practice today's morning motivation that someday, the word someday is not on the calendar. Someday I'm going to, have a better life and not work so much. Well, that needs to be today.
Someday's always right around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Just around the next bend. One more bend.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, Yergz, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. I had a good time with it. Hopefully your audience learns a few things they didn't already know.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. We'll take a look at our schedules, and someday soon.
Yeah.
Not just someday.
Yeah, let's mark a spot on the calendar soon. Yeah.
Reverse the table and take a look at Outrage Overload this week, or this week in Outrage, or one of the two. Maybe come on with both of you on a Sunday, or just you, whatever you want to do, whichever you want to do.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, or we could record a bonus and we'll just put it out as a bonus.
Awesome.
So we could probably do something. Let's work the details out. But yeah, we'll do that for sure.
Looking forward to it.
All right, thanks again, Yergz. I really appreciate it. I'll let you have your show back now.
We're going to go to a quick commercial, and it's time for lunch.
Yeah.
All right, pal. I'll see you again soon. See if not soon. I won't see you Thursday, right?
Right. No, I won't be. I don't think so. No, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Yeah. I'm not gonna get everybody up at 5:30 in the morning on it.
Oh, you got people staying with you this weekend?
Well, we're staying somewhere else. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's a bad idea then.
Yeah,
it's a bad idea. But I'll see you soon enough.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, bud. Well done. Very fun.
Good. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yep. David Beckemeyer, everybody, from Outrage Overload. You can get more of him at, see if I got you up here. I did.
You can go to outrageoverload.net.
I know. I don't know why I don't have that. I got to type that back in because it was up there. From when,
no, it's no big. This today's show is about you, so that's no problem.
There's still a guest.
Yeah, and we got to get together. I got to meet those pups.
Yeah. Are you doing any trips like that to the east?
We will definitely be. I don't have any on the calendar right now, but we're doing some work on the house, so it's like we sort of put everything else on hold for a little while we're
you and me both.
That up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not quite in the situation you're in, but it's like it's still like it's more than I want to handle right now.
Yeah, believe me, there's a lot more. Well, there it is on the screen. If you don't have it already, outrageoverload.net, where you can get Outrage Overload, Outrage Overload Science Bites. What's the other one? OK Boomer. Is that
that's just a series. That's a series within Outrage Overload. Yeah, but then the other one is This Week in Outrage and Outrage Science Bites. Yeah, those are the three.
Yep. Awesome. Did you wrap up Podpomo or whatever the hell it is?
Yeah, so I've got we're in the last week here, and then the only episode I still need to do is the last one on the very last day. So I'm probably going to do that closer to the actual day, so that all the other ones are queued up and ready to go. And very cool. That final one I'll record a little bit closer to the actual day, in case it's kind of like you're talking about, in case anything I really want to say changes between now and, because I already got a script for it, but something might change.
Did you do? Was this another series of Science Bites, or what was this year's theme?
It was Science Bites, and then I broke it up into 4 weekly themes. So I had like psychology of Outrage and social media and media, and I had one on technology and Outrage, and then the final week, which we're in now, is sort of the future, like where do we go from here, kind of stuff. And that's those. So each one of those was a block of 7 episodes with that theme, and then that gives you 28 days, and the last 2 are sort of reflection and call to action.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, we got to put them on Yergz Radio as well.
Yeah, so Thursdays will be an actual Thanksgiving. So it was a perfect day for a reflection episode, because I have reflection about Podpomo, but then Thanksgiving is also kind of a day of reflection, right?
Nice. Yeah, definitely got to put that on Yergz Radio with Yergz Radio News.
Yeah.
I put that in
Yeah.
with
I think they're fun. Nice little short episodes between 5 and 10 minutes.
Yep. Awesome.
Some of them I think are even less than 5 minutes.
Nice. All right, man. Looking forward to it.
All right. Yep. Yeah.
Again.
Good to see you. See you soon.
David Beckemeyer. All right, gang. That is, we're past on 99.1 WDJY, so we've lost them. But we're also, God, I hope I went. Oh, there we go. Okay. I didn't think I was live on the radio the whole 2 hours. But anyway, yeah, that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with just 1 hour on 99.1 WDJY, as well as America One Radio and the rest of the Massive Media Network. I'm going to find out where my dog went and then get some lunch. Thanks for joining. We'll see you tomorrow.